Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to theCUBE's live coverage of UiPath Fusion. I'm your host, Rebecca Knight, alongside Dave Vellante, my co-host and analyst. I would like to welcome Venkat Bhaskara. He is the Director of Automations-AgentOps at Pearson Education. Welcome, Hi. Venkat. Nice. And Mariesa Coughanour, Head of Advisory, Delivery, Mindshare, Automation, Agentic AI at Cognizant. That is a mouthful, Mariesa. You're in charge of a lot of stuff.
You know, it's never boring, and we're doing a lot of exciting things, so it's really exciting to be a part of so many different areas that we're working on with clients.
So why don't we start from the very beginning, and both of you tell our viewers a little bit about what you do, both at Cognizant and Pearson Education. Mariesa, go ahead.
Absolutely, so at Cognizant, in my role I work not only with the way that we deliver for our clients, so think about that as operational excellence, making sure we're boots on the ground, partnering with them, as well as we do a lot with consulting and advisory too, so think of that as more the strategy. How do you scale? How do you drive change? How do you really shift how work is going to be done tomorrow? And then the other piece I wear is also thinking about how do we position ourselves out there so we're telling our story for clients and in the industry, so it helps people be able to find us to hopefully find good partnerships together.
And Venkat, how about it, Pearson Ed?
I joined Pearson a few years ago and held multiple roles and responsibilities, but I took this great opportunity when it first landed a few years ago on automation. So it was a game changer in the aspect that we have to go and automate a lot of the business processes, to be honest, right? Nothing too fancy, but there was a lot of challenges in all that. But we were able to scale so many automations that are helpful for Pearson, improving their operational efficiency on a regular basis now. Year on year, we are hitting our OKRs like good, I should say. So now with all of this AI happening in the world, right? So the agentic AI is something which our team is very close to, and in order to help support the overall journey, we did form this team called AgentOps.
So cool title. So what type of agentic processes have you deployed specifically, and how has it affected your operation?
Sure. So again, it's not like a rigid workflow, not the traditional automation. When you think agentic, you want to have some reasoning, some decision making happening. So we have this use case around the student enrollments for our virtual schools business. So where as caretakers, again, just 2 months ago it was all the peak school season, enrollment season and all. So I think it's mostly about the documents that you need to verify, make sure that the process goes smooth, who the caretaker is and all that. So we have implemented that as a rules engine separate, which is able to make those decisions, and also we are going to embark on expanding it to further go and do the kind of a generative AI as well. The agent will go look into that information, and then it can make any of the policy changes that happens. You don't have to go and recode and all that. So that's a big efficiency we are driving now.
Well, I hope it's also for parents who end up doing all of those forms. I just got through that season myself, so yes. I know exactly where you speak. So up on the main stage, we heard a lot of the leaders here at UiPath talk about how agentic AI, it seemed like this magic wand, and yet when it comes down to it, it's really hard. How much did that resonate with both of you in the sense of what you're feeling at Pearson Ed and how you work with clients, Mariesa? Mariesa, do you want to take that to start?
I think that's such a true story, and I think we're all experiencing it. When you think about this space, the technology part is rarely the challenge. We could deploy technology, but we are shifting how people are working. We're having to bring people along this journey. We're changing culture, and that really is a lot of work. It's very difficult. And it's something that we're continuing to work with clients on. I think also Venkat and the team at Pearson, they're doing such a nice job of thinking about the change management. How do you prioritize and think about your stakeholders so they're coming along the journey and they understand what we're doing, why we're doing it. And then the other piece is thinking about as we shift this work, it's going to take a lot of effort to also think about how do we upskill people differently? How do we hire differently? How do you have career pathing that's evolving? So it's an exciting space to be in, but it is a lot of work to truly drive this at scale change and adoption in this agentic space.
So Mariesa, my agentic dream is I have an outcome that I want to achieve. And I've got agents, I've got tools, I've got resources. people, it knows my enterprise. I've got constraints that the organization has put on. I've got metrics, goals that we want to hit. And the system says, maybe it's two plans. Here's plan A, here's plan B, with workflows that are recommended. Present them. And then the human says, I like this aspect of the plan, I don't like this, I like put together the new plan, and it gives it to me, and you say execute. That's my dream. And so, will we ever get there? Where are we today on that, that nirvana?
Yeah, great question. Again, the whole point of the agentic AI or the AI in general is to mimic the human and get as close to as possible. But again, would it hit 100% rate every time? Maybe not, because again, that's how you design your agent, right? Be very aware of what your problem statement that you're trying to solve. Then you can look at how much is something where you can agentify, right? Still, right? Can you escape the human in the loop? Maybe not, right? So still there will be situations where it has to come to a decision. For example, let's say as a caretaker, you demand for, you got to submit few documents, right? So you have agents there to look for hey, is this a birth certificate? Is this a driver's license and so forth? But again, the states, the rules of the states vary, right? Some may say that, I need this primary document. If you do not have, I need these two specific documents where there is a signature of both the landlord and the tenant, if it was something like a rental agreement kind of a thing. So how do you make that if it's all embossed into one document, right? So there is no platform which can go and read, this is the license, this is this, right? So you still have to look for some more efficiencies to look for, maybe some more kind of intelligence in it to be able to segregate. But that's something you're looking for a North Star 100%.
Well,
right?
I'm cool with the human in the loop. Of course, I want the human.
You're a
in
little
the loop.
biased. You're the human.
And I think most organizations would want the human in the loop, for sure. I'm looking for the system to guide me on the best way to do this, and remind me when there's an SLA that I forgot about or something like that, that it's keeping track of. So it's doing all the mundane work that we don't want to fall through the cracks.
Yeah, I can relate to one other example for you, because it's not just the user, right? Even as an application developer, he might be there trying to develop a new cool app, right? So the agentic AI as such should be able to help me at every stage of the application development, not just say that towards the end saying something is looking good or not, right? First of all, it has to be a great interface where AI and the humans can talk naturally, number one. And two, if I am trying to check against my standards, the practices, the benchmarks, right? Some of the guardrails and so forth, it's all housed in something called as, let's say, best practices, right? But if I'm doing application development, and then it is constantly checking against that. So that's the agent you want, that's the intelligence you want. So I think that is coming more and more to fruition now, I would say, as we embark on some of the development we are doing in our teams.
Because what I would do is I would call Cognizant, you ring up Mariesa and say, hey, I have this problem, I have this complicated business, it's got these dynamic, fluid workflows. Can you help me get there? And so what would you guide me in that instance?
We are seeing it with the human in the loop, but also we're seeing Agentic really being able to take on a much larger workload than you would have imagined before, especially in different areas, right? Like sometimes it can go make a decision for you. We have a very cool example where it's actually like an HR agent that we show like an example, say an employee is going to be going out, maybe they're getting married. And so it says, I'm going to be taking some time off, this is what I'm going to be doing, and then you actually can watch it. It's almost like I would describe it as this little agent is going out and checking with all these teams and going to meetings for you, coming back and saying, okay, so here's everything I would guide you on the days you could take off, here's some other things you may want to consider if you need to change your last name, for example. It might also say, actually, maybe you want to take off a couple days even beforehand, you have extra PTO available, and that's a stressful time getting married. You may want to make sure that you have those days to relax, and it has a level of almost humanity also that's building into these tools, and it's really exciting to see what's really potential, because there was a lot we wanted to do with automation in the early days, but you needed the rules. And now we can actually continuously improve, we can give it guidance as it's learning, and it's bringing back insights to you that actually help drive business decisions, and you do see people saying, you know what, I'm okay in this situation, I feel confident, let the agents make those decisions.
So the HR person whose job it was previously to check with the teams and guide the employee through that process, what is that person doing? How has their role shifted and their tasks and job?
I think they're shifting away from a lot of the task-oriented work that they were having to answer questions, they get a message, they're responding to it, you get the phone call, I can't find this document, this policy, right? And I think they're actually enjoying the higher touch points they're getting now with their stakeholders, so the people in the business units they support. They're thinking about what else does the team need to be aware of in the organization. I find very few people are working 40 hours a week, logging off every day when they want to. They have a to-do list a mile long on their side of their computer that they don't get time to get to. And I think these agents are really freeing up the time that we wanted to be able to free up in the past. Give value time back to these employees in the organization. We don't want people working on the mundane, repetitive Q&A kind of thing. Let's put technology to work. Let's make it work for us so we feel like we're actually getting that value versus all of that work that we probably didn't want to get to anyway on our list.
Walk us through the relationship of your organizations. Where did it start? When did it start? What use cases were you working on? Was there prior sort of relationship with RPA and other automations, and how has that evolved?
Yeah, I think Cognizant has been one of our preferred partners for a lot of technologies. So it was natural that the relation around the automations and the agentic AI it became a natural fit because of the talent that's available. And the use cases that we are working on is, again, there are several. Because again, when we talk about Pearson education, there are several business units, right? So there is the assessment and qualifications, so which actually validates the learning and skills of the people, or the students, or the learners primarily. So if there is any of the assessment scoring, they expedite the assessment scoring, right? So that's an automation. There are cases where still parts of the world where it's all paper driven, right? So you're still taking exam on papers and you have certain barcodes on each paper. How do they come together? If they get kind of mixed up, even though you hit the SLA like 99.99, but still there is that percent, very minuscule percent, whose life is impacted because something got jumbled up there. So those are some of the use cases where you want to make sure that those are not, folks are not impacted. And and there is a lot of market research kind of use cases as well.
Mariesa, I want to go back to something you were talking about earlier, and that is the cultural shift that is necessary and the change management. Can you describe how you work with clients in terms of cultivating the kinds of mindset and approaches that their people need in order to fully embrace this new era?
I'll be honest, change management is probably one of the most critical elements that you need to be successful in these programs. Even if we go back to the early days of automation, where you didn't see the organization scale, it was often where they deprioritized it. And it's because people are the core of every company, no matter what you sell and what you do. They are the culture, they're that nervous system of your organization. And so we work with clients on traditional change management, like communication, training, but we've got a lot in what I'll call enablement also. How do you engage? How do you find fun, creative ways to have people involved? We do things like hackathons, but we even run big events for them. We actually have one event we bring in actually their employee base, so this is business, technologists, and we bring them together for 2 days and we upskill them. And we do it with partners because we want them to be engaged. We want them to know what's the latest and greatest. We're working with HR teams right now too, because the other thing we're finding is people want these skills and they want to be hands-on with it. And there's some training out there and sometimes it's hard to find training, especially for more of like your business-friendly folks. So we're working with them on how do you build this? How do you build this into the core of what you do? And how do you engage from the grassroots of your organization the entire way to the executive leadership? Because you truly need to have all of those levels interacting, and when you do, there's a shift that starts to happen. And it's really exciting when you sit in a room and you watch two business lines talk about, you know what, actually what we built would work for you, why don't we come together? Because that's when you know you got that stickiness. You know you're making that shift, and you watch these CFOs and people officers say, you know what, I see it in the numbers, but more than that, I feel it. That's what we're looking for, and that's how we engage with clients. I would say, I had a client once say this to me, and she said, look, it's not about being a consultant or advisor or come in and show us how to do like a model. You guys are catalysts, and that's what we need more of.
Sparks. Love it. What's the biggest bottleneck, barrier to success that you find? Is it data quality? Are there human issues, cultural? What are you finding in your organization? And then I'd love to hear Mariesa broadly across the industry.
Yeah, I think for the success of the agentic AI or the automation, I think that two things really matter. One, having a thorough understanding of your process, the business process. Make sure it's everyone understands, everyone speaks the same language, number one. And two, I would say it's more to do with that mindset, right? So whether do not just get into that position where you got to decide on a specific platform, because today you cannot build that solution just with one platform, right? It is orchestration of agents, right? So that's something what everyone should be more flexible to adopt, I would say, rather than sticking to one, because there is no one magic bullet. If someone said that, hey, delete all your apps on the iPhone, and because there is only one app, then I would say you would have probably bought the most expensive calculator in the world, right? So that's something where that mindset needs to change.
Anything you'd add to that?
I would say a couple of things, and even a few, Venkat, I see you guys doing too at Pearson. I think one is how you orchestrate is really important. It's how do you bring people, process, technology all together, and also break down all the silos that are just natural in an organization. The more you can bring people together, the more they understand what are we trying to do, feel a part of it, and also understand the value that's being driven and how it impacts them, the more you see success in this. And I do think there's still challenges out there like data, process complexity that we're working through. I would also say as we think about it, the industry's evolved so fast also. Understanding what is this new technology? How can I be a part of it? How do I get out here and actually not be nervous to use it or scared even, but actually feel like this is something that's going to make my role better and I can actually be a part of those solutions. And so it's about overcoming those hurdles. I think some are traditional that we're still working through. They're all definitely achievable, and I think the more we could come up with ways to engage people, help them understand it. Even at Cognizant, we actually just did a vibe coding event. And that to me was just phenomenal because you just saw numerous people who would not have picked up this technology get out there and say, you know what, I can do this. And we built tools for clients, we built tools for the organization, even some folks built tools to kind of bring the teams together. I know I have one group on my team that they love to travel. So the one guy during Vibe Coding Week also on the side additionally built this app essentially to share everyone's travel tips in it amongst the team, because everyone was always reaching out in the team's chat and just asking for it. And look, to me, that is demystifying the technology. It gets people hands-on, and now they're thinking that much bigger on other ways you can use the tools, because there's always ways to relate to solutions. Even like a travel app like that, what if there's a way to connect teams within the organization or working on similar projects? Same concept, slightly different, and now someone who is less likely to use the tech is out there in front of the clients thinking that way, and that's what matters.
And there's a mix of technical and non-technical people?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Awesome.
Everyone can be a part of this journey. Everyone doesn't have to build if they're not comfortable yet, but everyone can be a part of this journey.
I need that travel tips app. Thank you so much, Mariesa and Venkat. A really fun conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
I'm Rebecca Knight for Dave Vellante. Come back for more of theCUBE's live coverage of UiPath Fusion. You're watching theCUBE, the leader in enterprise news and analysis.